everyone, I hope you're enjoying the sunny weather. I thought I would pop on and do a little bit of a spontaneous live because I have a few moments and I realise I've not been in the group much this week because I've not been too well. What I really wanted to do a live on is about separation anxiety. Separation anxiety is something that pops up quite a lot, and it's definitely something that can be quite common in Whippets and sighthounds. They are velcro dogs, they do like to be with us, so I thought I'd just do a bit of a live. So if you're watching this live, you can pop some comments in the comments, questions, whatever you fancy. If you're watching it later, you're welcome to ask any questions later. This should be recorded and it'll be then put in the group as well as on the YouTube channel. But separation anxiety is something that is, that is quite, it's something I get a lot of inquiries for, a lot of posts about. It's something I've lived with. Arthur, wherever he is, the little black whippet, had really bad separation anxiety. He had hyperattachment, so even though I had other dogs in the household or other people, he would still be anxious about being alone. What I thought I'd do is just do a little bit of a myth busting sort of session and sort of talk about the common myths and advice that you might be given if you have a dog with separation anxiety, and how and why they're myths and why they're not going to help you with your dog with separation issues. So myth number one is a really common one, and that is you will often be told if your dog has separation anxiety, it's because you coddle them too much, or you pander to them, or you're too affectionate with them, you're not firm enough with them, you need to be stricter with them. And this is just a load of rubbish. Separation anxiety is not caused by being given too much attention. It's definitely not something where if you just start ignoring your dog, they're going to improve. In fact, if you stopped giving your dog attention and you started ignoring them actively and they have separation anxiety, we are likely going to create a less secure attachment, meaning they're more confused, they don't know where they stand, and they're more likely to be anxious. A dog with separation anxiety usually has a fear or a phobia of being left alone, and that is basically the equivalent to a panic attack when you're gone. You cannot cause your dog to have a panic attack when you're gone by giving them attention when you're with them. It doesn't work that way, and we know that because separation anxiety is often caused by either a negative experience, lack of building them up, or very often it's caused by genetics. I know a lot of Whippets who have separation issues, and they can they've got siblings with separation issues, a parent has separation issues. It's very often already a predisposed thing. We definitely want to be working on building some independence with them from a young age, but it's not going to be a case of, well, you gave them too much attention, now look, they can't cope without you. It's not really the way it works. So it's never anything you've done if your dog has separation anxiety. The second myth is that you are often told that you can solve this really easily by getting a Kong with some peanut butter, putting it down, magic. In fact, I saw this on TV the other day, and I really hate that it's like spouted as this magic cure for like real separation anxiety. Essentially the idea is you get a lovely tasty Kong, you give it to your dog, and they will be fine when you leave. And that might be true if your dog is just a bit bored, a bit understimulated, they're just not really sure what to do. But for most dogs with true separation anxiety, distracting them with food isn't going to solve the issue. You're just distracting them. And usually what happens is when the food is gone, they remember you're gone and they start howling, crying, pacing, panting. Like, it doesn't solve anything. It can often make things worse. I know many dogs who, when they are then presented with a Kong, start to panic immediately because they know it means their owner is leaving, because the Kong is only ever brought out when their owner is going. So a big myth is that we can solve this just by distracting the dog. Very often that's not going to work. What we want to be doing is using gradual desensitization to boost those dogs, which I will talk about a bit more later. Another myth that often pops up is, oh, you just need to use a crate. The dog will be fine if you leave him in a crate. And this isn't really true. If we have a dog with separation anxiety, putting them in a crate so they can't destroy your house isn't going to stop them having separation anxiety. It's certainly not going to solve it. It's definitely fair to say some dogs can do better in a crate. Arthur was happier in a crate, and I know some dogs who are happier in crates than loose. But as a general rule, putting a dog who is having a panic attack when they're left into a confined space isn't going to be the most ideal solution, as in we don't do anything else, we just put them in a crate. That's not going to help the dog, and that can increase anxiety. We know that dogs with separation anxiety can harm themselves by attempting to escape crates. If you have a dog with separation anxiety, just putting them in a crate, not doing any training, and then them howling and trying to escape may result in them injuring themselves. So we definitely don't want to use this as a solution for your dog's separation anxiety. It's not magic, the crate. Putting them in it doesn't tend to make them magically not have separation anxiety. So it's a big myth that owners with dogs who have separation anxiety should just put them in a crate. So it's not really likely to solve anything, and it can potentially make things worse. I would always say, if I was using a crate with a dog with separation anxiety, even if I'm doing like training and I'm building them up, I always take collars off and that kind of thing to reduce that risk as well. The fourth thing is the biggest myth I see, which is that we should just leave them to cry it out. This is a massive myth, and it sort of stems from the idea that when your dogs are crying or howling when you've left, they're just attention seeking. We know that if your dog is crying or howling, they have separation anxiety, we know they've got a phobia, they're having a panic attack when you're gone, you returning to them when they're crying isn't going to increase their separation anxiety. However, if we leave them to cry it out, they learn that no one comes when they're anxious, which increases their fear. You know, it's a self-fulfilling thing, maybe not quite. Maybe, in that they cry because there's no one there, no one comes back, they keep crying and howling. Yes, someone eventually does come back, but they were right all along that when you leave the house, it's a scary time because they got anxious and they got distressed. We don't want to leave them to cry it out because it doesn't often work. Sometimes it does. Most of the time it doesn't. And then we're left with a dog who is very anxious when they are left home alone, or even in another room, depending on the individual dog. We don't want to leave them to cry it out. Instead, when we're dealing with separation issues or building confidence with absences with young dogs, we want to gradually desensitize them that you leave and you return. And we do that with very small absences to begin with, and gradually increase those that duration of those absences as we go on. We do it with lots of small repetitions where they're successful, and then we build. We often have to find that space, that time, that duration where they can cope, and that can sometimes take a little bit of figuring out. Sometimes means starting from scratch for some dogs, but we start right from the start and we build that up. And I'm going to do another live on how we deal with separation anxiety another time. But I just wanted to go through those quick myths today. Does anyone have any questions? I've had some people watching. Now I've clicked something and I can't see anything now. I think I've messed with the lighting. Yeah, doesn't matter. It's also telling me I have a slow connection and I'm not really sure why. Click things again. I can't see any comments. So yeah, 4 myths are of separation anxiety that aren't true are: it's your own fault for cuddling your dog, you can solve it with a calm, you can solve it with a crate, and you should leave them to cry it out. We don't want to do any of those things to solve separation anxiety. So if you're watching this later and you have any questions, do feel free to let me know. It's not showing me that I've got any questions here, so I shall disappear. And I will get this onto YouTube as well. If you need any support, just give me a shout, and I will do another one in another part when I get a few minutes on solving separation issues and how we can approach that. Thanks for watching. Bye!